Right. So we are going to do a restorative practice today, which means we're going to do a lot of quiet, kind of passive poses. And that's what the second chair is really going to be useful for, is helping us rest the forehead. So when the forehead is resting, it really supports the nervous system becoming quieter and more conducive to the body, moving through tension that might not be available in a more active pose. So we can explore this practice together. And I usually teach restorative class at the last week of the month, which it is. And yeah, I'm excited to do this together today. And also I've planned a little bit of pranayama, which is just working with our breathing. And we don't usually do those practices until we've done yoga, asana, the poses. So we are going to do some breath work toward the end of the class as well. So all you should need is second chair or stool, a couple blocks, or if you have kind of larger books. Most people don't have encyclopedias anymore, but that kind of a big book. And then maybe a blanket for some of the forward folds if you need a little bit of spacer between your abdomen and your thighs. You can also kind of substitute sometimes with your arms. However, today we're going to have our hands more forward, so we might need a little bit of a soft prop there. So let's just begin sitting. You're going to sit back on the chair. So do use the back of the chair today just to be a little bit more passive in your upright seated position, but take some time to align the shoulders above the hips, the skull above the spine, your hands resting close to your creases of your thighs, just to keep your shoulders back. And you can always add a blanket here if you feel like your shoulders are a little bit kind of floating high. You can put a blanket under the hands, and oftentimes that helps the shoulders to release. So it's a nice way to kind of be more restful. And then close the eyes and softly look down toward your cheeks. And you're just kind of performing a body scan, moving your attention from your head to your feet, acknowledging heavy parts of the body, acknowledging places where you either meet the chair or the floor, acknowledging places in the body that are tense, contracted, maybe even painful, sore. And then giving your attention to your breath, which doesn't mean you have to do anything with your breath. You're just noticing. If you sense there's tension in the abdomen, just take a few breaths now, inviting a little bit more of a stretch in the belly, a little bit more of that soft kind of caving in of the abdomen when you breathe out. Just inviting a little movement into the abdomen. Sometimes the abdomen gets a little bit hardened or stiff or tight. Some of this is tension. We carry a lot of our emotions in our belly. And some of this is cultural. We're taught to suck it in, keep the belly small. We're just taking the next few breaths to explore relaxing the belly, expanding the belly, contracting the belly, moving the belly. And then when you're ready, you're just going to take your hands together in front of your heart, maybe inviting a certain intention into your heart for your practice, for your day. Maybe just continuing to be present to your own experience right now. And on an exhalation, bowing toward your heart. Releasing your hands, lifting your head. And welcome, everyone. We're going to begin with some neck and shoulders, just moving the neck and shoulders. So we're going to drop the chin to the chest. Try to keep your shoulders back, not rounded, your chest forward. And just kind of tapping into the weight of the head. You're just going to roll your head from shoulder to shoulder. So we don't ever take the head back. It's just a semicircle from shoulder to shoulder across the chest. And just kind of exploring what sort of tension is living here. I like to usually linger in certain areas if I discover there's a lot of sensation there, a lot of tension. Maybe stopping and just kind of giving it a few breaths. Just taking the head to each side a couple more times. And you might be doing this with kind of coordinating it with your breath, and you might not be. And the next time your head rolls back to center, just go ahead and lift it up. We're going to start with very small shoulder rolls, and we're going to roll the shoulders from back to front. So you might need to come away from the back of the chair. Just kind of do what's comfortable in your body. And just start with very small circular pattern. And you're going to go slow enough and make it small enough that you're able to make it smooth. So you might notice you feel kind of like a jerky machine. The shoulders might be out of sync. So try to find smoothness and evenness to how the shoulders are moving at the same time. And then if you're able to make it a little bit bigger range of motion, feel free to do so, but just kind of keeping it very fluid. And of course, this isn't just about the shoulders. Your shoulder blades will start to create their own little circular patterns in the back body. Your breath might start to change. Again, you might start to notice little hot pockets of sensation where there might be some tension buried away, maybe under the shoulder blades or in the neck. And the next time your shoulders come forward, just kind of stop for a moment and switch directions. You're going to move now from front to back. And try to go slowly enough that you're able to kind of be present to every little point along the way. Our body is very clever at kind of skipping over areas that are troublesome. So you want to go slow enough that you know you're not bypassing those little pockets where tensions live. Notice your breathing here. And the next time that you have the shoulders back and down, you can just leave them there. And the chest should be nice and lifted. We're going to come into child's pose. So again, this is a forward bend. So if you would like a spacer between your abdomen and your thighs, you can put a blanket there. However, we're not resting the head for this pose. So if you'd like to use your arms as the spacer, you can do that. Otherwise, we're going to hang the arms freely, like empty coat sleeves. And you're going to hang your head and just keep your feet under the knees. Your knees are as wide as the hips. And just envision your spine from your brainstem all the way to the tailbone. And every time you breathe in, lengthening the spine. So you might imagine the skull breaking free from the sacrum. And then also envisioning the broadness that's happening across the back body, the expansion, the pressure to the abdomen, forcing the breath into the back body, which is really good for our muscles of respiration, really healthy for the lungs. We're going to start to come up, and you can take your hands to your thighs if your arms were hanging. Just come all the way up. And we're going to do child pose to each side, and this is where we want to start to incorporate some head support. So whatever you've chosen to be your second chair, you're going to bring the chair, we'll just call it a chair in case it's not a chair, just assume we're going to use the word chair. And you're going to bring it to your left side, kind of in front of your left knee. And then what's important is that we can get something down like the elbows. And if you can't bring your head down to your forearms, then you can always take your hands together and raise the forearms vertically and put your thumbs against your forehead. So the thing is, you want to build up this height enough that you're able to fold forward. And so we're moving the torso to the left. And what you're going to start to feel probably is that the right side of the body is getting this really nice opportunity to lengthen. So every time you breathe in, just imagine not only the curvature of the spine, but also the side body, the right side body, elongating. When you have the forehead in contact with something, whether it's your hands or the chair directly, try to position your head on your hands in a way that keeps the back of the neck really long. So we don't want to put a crease across the neck. We don't want to extend the neck. We want to probably slide a little closer to the hairline so that the back of the neck stays really long. Really clear channel for the energy to flow. We're going to start to shift to the other side now. So just a reminder throughout this practice, when we transition, just attempting to keep the nervous system quiet. So moving with kind of minimized effort, kind of keeping the brain quiet and the body as minimally disturbed as you can. So your chair or your stool will come in front of your right knee. Your head can be resting on the hands or against the bases of the thumbs if you bend the elbows. And take a moment to just, in your mind's eye, envision your spine moving in that crescent moon shape. Opening the left side body, the left spine. So moving the spine in the different directions is really important for the health of our discs. Kind of massages the fluids in the discs, corrects for any imbalances in the discs, any bulging or tension. Just a couple more deep breaths here. We're going to start to gently bring ourselves up. And we'll put the chair, the second chair, to the middle space. And then this is where we're going to elevate the feet slightly. Where did I put my blocks? Here they are. So whatever you have, books or blocks. Hopefully, if it's books, you've kind of found two that have similar thicknesses. You're just going to elevate the feet slightly, which puts us in a little bit of a deeper hip contraction, hip flexion. So we get a little more compact when the feet are elevated. And then similarly, we're going to have the feet wide enough, as wide as you need, It doesn't have to be incredibly wide, but wide enough as you need to bring your second chair close to your body so you can rest your forearms down. So again, if that is too far of a reach, you have to build up the surface of that second chair with something, be it, it could be anything, as long as it's comfortable and flat. And we are going to rest the head. So once you've kind of set yourself up, your feet are right under your knees. You can bring your hands together and rest your forehead against your thumbs. You might stack your fists. Kind of depends how much space you have between you and that surface, how much you need to support yourself, how deep you can go, I should say. And so now that the knees are open, there's more space for the torso to come down. We don't have the thighs preventing us. So you can kind of move into a deeper fold as the body is ready. And again, consider the line of the neck. We don't want to have a crease. So bringing your contact point of the forehead closer to the hairline, the chin closer to the chest. Forward bends are really supportive of extending the exhalation, which of course is supportive to the parasympathetic nervous system. So when we can really ride out the exhalations as long as they go, we can kind of be thorough with the exhalations. We start to get really quiet in the brain. And then when the brain is quiet, the body is more ready to let the tensions go. So it's kind of a feedback loop that we have with body and mind, constantly in dialogue. Just a few more breaths here. Notice if you're really reaching the very bottom of the exhales. Now you're going to just gently come onto your forearms. We're going to just bring a little twist into this. So we're going to keep the right forearm down on that second chair, the left hand to your thigh, and then using the pressure of the arm against that second chair, just gently turning your spine to look to the left. Try to keep your eyes relaxed. Remembering every exhale that you could gently maybe turn a bit more, but not forcing anything. And never working with pain. If there's any pinching or pain, you might want to back out of the twist a little bit. Taking a few inhales to lengthen from the tailbone out through the very top of your head. And then you're going to gently come to the next exhale, just finish it out. And inhale, lengthen back to center. Now the left forearm comes down. The right hand can just kind of press down on the right thigh. And then with all you've got the feet, you've got the forearm, you've got the right hand, press everything down. And that's going to help create enough space to rotate the spine. So everything's just a container for your breath. So once you've built this beautiful, interesting space with your body, with your shape, with your pose, open the window and make sure you're breathing. Let the breath just kind of wander around in this weird container. Just 2 more exhales, really tracking those breaths out as thoroughly as you can. And then on an in-breath, lengthen back to center. So really protecting the space of the spine. Okay, so we're going to stay down on the forearms here for a little seated back bend. We're going to do a chair version of Sphinx Pose. I like to say Sphinx is yoga for your mouth, saying the word Sphinx. So let's begin with the elbows under the shoulders. So again, if that chair seat is too low, you have to build it up. So we don't want to be in this oppressed kind of forward bend. You want to have as much propping and support as you need. Start with your palms up. And with the palms up, just kind of without the elbows actually moving in space, draw the flesh of the elbows, kind of roll the elbows toward your body, which moves your chest forward. So we're coming into a little back bend. And when you kind of scrub, is the word I like to use, scrub the elbows toward your body, the shoulders move back and the shoulder blades move forward into the chest. And now imagine you're just kind of outside in the sunlight, point your face up toward the sky. Close your eyes. And you're trying to make the space between your shoulder blades concave. So every time you breathe in, lift your sternum toward the sky. Every time you breathe out, gently coil the shoulder blades toward your chest. Relax your face. Relax the face from the hairline to the chin. Let the face just soften. Let it kind of melt. Relax your jaw. Just a couple more breaths. So restorative yoga doesn't mean we don't have any effort, but we really try to minimize effort. We turn the dial to a simmer, but we always need some effort. Otherwise, we would just be passive ragdolls and the brain would get very dull. Okay, so come to the top of the next inhale, and then you're going to exhale, and I want you to kind of start to round your spine. Turn your chin in, pull the navel back, bring your hands to your chair, your second chair, and roll yourself up. Good. Right. So we've opened up a whole new set of things we can do with this second chair. So we're going to get into some, well, we've already started getting into some new work, but we're going to get into the hips now. So second chair, feel free to keep the soft blanket if you have that. We're going to do a soft pigeon pose. So this is a little hip opener. So just know that you have complete control over how deep it is. So what you want to do is push that chair as far away as you need. That's going to make it less sensation. And if you want more sensation, your second chair comes closer to your body. So you have that control. You can also control the height under the foot. The higher the foot, the deeper the hip work is. The lower the foot, the more passive it will feel. So one more way you can control sensation. The right foot moving to the left is going to make it deeper. The right foot being a little bit farther to the right is going to make it less so. So we have up, down, we have back and forth, and we have right to left. All the directions, we have control over how deep we're going to go. So the next piece, and feel free to elevate the left foot or not. It's kind of a personal preference, what feels better in your body. We all have different chairs and different proportions. So sometimes having a foot block under your foot is always a good idea. Depends how it feels. But what we're going to do is just start to lean forward. So it's not like a full forward bend. We're not going to rest the head on this one. You might have your arms kind of resting on your thighs. And you're just leaning forward to the point where you're able to tolerate, you're titrating sensation into your right hip. And what we don't want to feel is that the knee is taking on some pain. That's a sign we're going too far too quickly. So if the knee is talking to you, that's a red flag. You want to back off somehow. Okay, so if you found enough sensation, you're just going to breathe. You might close your eyes. And when we work with our hips, we have to be patient because we kind of have to wait for the initial kind of clenching or gripping to go away. The kind of reflex in the hip is to contract. So we're just kind of breathing and we're supporting ourselves with maybe closing the eyes and maybe bringing some visualization, visualizing your hip, maybe starting to visualize the breath moving into the hip. If you don't need a forward bend, sometimes just sitting upright is going to be a better choice. So make sure to only lean forward if it's necessary and feels good, and otherwise you might be more upright. And I can't see your legs, Linda, but hopefully you're doing okay. Are you doing okay? No. Okay. Do you want to, can you unmute? Oh, can you unmute yourself? Do you have something to? Okay. You got it up. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. Anybody else? Just, that's the universal. When you're muted on Zoom, thumbs up and thumbs down. So limited vocabulary. We can always unmute you too. Just another few breaths here. And now we're going to inhale and just kind of pick yourself up by the very top of the head. Just that same idea to keep the spine really long. And safely, you might scoop behind your right thigh to bring your foot down. Try to get your foot down. And then we are going to do the other side. Just remind yourself here that usually we don't have a matching set of tension patterns in our hips or anywhere in the body, left and right. So you just want to make go in with fresh eyes. So Iyengar said that when you do yoga, every cell in your body has an eyeball. It's kind of weird, but go in with fresh eyeballs here. Make a fresh assessment how this left hip, what it needs as far as maybe you need to move the foot farther away to get less sensation. Maybe you need to lower the foot somehow. Remember, if you can recall, if the second chair is too high for you, you can always go to this version where you're crossing your ankle to your shin. You're still going to have a hip opener, or you're taking your ankle to your thigh, but that's probably a similar height to your second chair. But just know that you can modify around the second chair if you need to. The right foot can be elevated or not. You can play with moving the left foot to the right, or if you need less sensation, moving the left foot to the left. I have mine kind of right in the middle. And then maybe leaning forward, maybe you don't need that. Again, you might have enough sensation going on without that extra piece of leaning into it. And even though we don't have the forehead down here, we're not touching anything, try to put your neck in that neutral position so you're not creasing. Maybe close the eyes, which can also help you kind of power down where you don't need to exert any energy. Finding smooth and even breaths is supportive as well. I'm going to stay about another minute. So if you're white knuckling anything, don't do that. Make sure to always customize the pose to work for you. About 4 more breaths here. And then on an in-breath, you'll just rise out of it, lengthen out of it, lift yourself back up. You want to bring the knee up and the foot down for transition. It's a safer transition for the knee. Step back down. And so we're going to incorporate both sides at the same time in a pose called bound angle. And you have option one, if that chair seat feels a little too high to put both feet there. Option one is going to be to have the feet on the floor, but you're kind of resting on the tops of the toes so that you can see the undersides of the feet. And you're just going to have the knees out wide, the feet together. Kind of an intermediary step would be to do the same thing, but you could place your feet on your blocks, which gets the feet a little higher. If you're able to or wanting to try the second chair, then you would put the feet on the second chair seat. And again, you have control over how far away it is from you. So the farther the second chair is from your body, the more mild it will be. And the closer it is, of course, the deeper it'll be. So because we kind of feel slouched once we do that, grab hold of your ankles or shins with your hands. And you can pull on the ankles or shins, which helps you bring the shoulder blades in and the chest open so you don't feel slumped or rounded or slouched. Sit up nice and tall. And so be looking around the house. Maybe you could do this practice. Maybe it would be friendlier if you had a lower support, maybe a higher support. So I have this stool, which actually the height is adjustable. It's kind of ideal. So your chest is lifted, but take your chin toward your chest. This is kind of the position we use when we work with meditation and pranayama, which is the breathing practices. We bring the chest and chin closer together. The eyes are looking toward the cheeks. And the skin of the face is relaxed. So sometimes you see pictures of practitioners meditating or doing pranayama, and it looks like they are smiling. And it's not that they're actively smiling, but it's that they've let go of the default contracted frowning. And when you let go of the tension muscles for frowning, sometimes the face just appears to be smiling. All right. So that can be a bigger pose for some of us. So let your torso come back. Help your feet down one at a time. So it's important when we work with our hips that we take care of our knees afterwards. So we have, again, two options here, low or high for Dandasana, which is the pose of the spine. So option one is to have your feet on the floor or the blocks out in front of you, straight legs. You're on the edge of the chair seat and you're sitting up tall. So Dandasana, the Danda is the spine. And so the legs are really the active part of the pose to support the spine being upright and active as well. If you're able to, the classical pose, we're at a more 90-degree position with the hips. So you might be able to elevate the feet onto your second chair. So what you don't want is your feet higher than your hips. So I'm taking my blanket away because that would be too high. But it's this upright seated position. And again, there might be kind of an intermediary placement for the feet between the floor and that high chair level. So you might kind of eventually look around your house and see if there's anything useful for your practice, because we will do second chair practices again. So it'll be good to kind of identify some things you could use. So to take care of the knees, just squeezing the muscles of your legs, opening the backs of the knees, and pressing out evenly through the soles of the feet. So if you see the feet sickling, try to press out through the ball mounds so that the soles of the feet are even. And then after a few breaths, sit back on that chair seat, help your legs to a bent knee position, feet on the floor. Good. So I have to kind of remember this next pose. Okay, I got it. Janu Shirshasana. So this is head to knee pose. You're going to prop your right foot on the block. And as you can see, my right knee is out wide. So we're back in a little rotated open hip position here. My left leg is going onto that chair seat. And again, it can be on the floor. If you need to put your foot on the floor on a second block, you can drop that height down to any level you need. So this would be the deepest is having your foot on the chair seat. And then we fold over the leg. So it's not very easy in this setup to get our heads grounded. But if you can, find a way to just kind of bow over your leg. And again, make things quiet. So you don't need your eyes open necessarily. So you might close your eyes. Consider the line of the neck. That's another way to kind of feel a little bit quieter in the pose to make sure you're not creasing the back of the neck or extending the cervical spine. So smooth neckline, chin toward chest. And every time you inhale, envision that your torso is extending, it's lengthening out over your left leg. Like you're growing. The shadow of the nose is kind of tracking toward the foot. And every time you exhale, maybe the body drops in a little lower. And again, I know you know this, but if you're feeling any compression or discomfort in the abdomen, you can add that blanket spacer kind of right between your belly and your thigh. So inhale and come up. We're just going to transition our right leg to what's called Marichiasana. So instead of the knee out wide, you're stepping down on your block and your knee is directly in front of the line of the hip. So rather than letting the knee fall out wide, we're actually squeezing it toward midline. So it's kind of a counter pose, Marichiasana. And again, we're going to be folding forward. So if you need something soft here, if you want to use your arms on your legs, if you're able to get your head down, always do that, but don't make it, don't distort the pose just to get your head down. So if you have an easy way of getting your head down, you might also have a soft block at home and you're able to put your head there. So get creative. If you have a way to get the head down, it's always kind of a better option because, like I said earlier, we can get more quiet with that support to the forehead. You guys look good. There's a little tweak you can make in this pose, which I think is a nice one. The left heel is probably pushing out away from you, and I want you to reverse that. So gently drag the left heel toward the hip socket. And hopefully this shows up as your torso is able to extend farther. We kind of scrub that left heel toward the left hip. And it extends the torso. It's kind of a wave of energy. Just 3 more breaths. You always want to take the inhale to come up just because it's a nice lengthening thing to do. So inhale up. And then go ahead and step down with the left foot. And if your legs are kind of feeling a little tense or like you need to refresh them, bounce the legs, do what you need to do. You might slap the legs, you might rolling pin the legs, or just give them a refresh because we will do those poses to the second side. So we want to feel kind of refreshed. We don't want to feel already kind of tired. So then we will elevate the left foot. We're going to take the head to knee pose first. So it's the wide knee, the hips in external rotation. And then we have to choose the appropriate height for this right foot. So it might be floor, it might be block, it might be something in between, it might be the seat of the chair. Just make sure that the heel is no higher than the hip. That would be a distortion of the pose, which we're not going for. Okay, so we have this shape, this knee out to the side. You want to think about lengthening from that left inner thigh out through the inner knee. Lengthen. Just take it long, as if the knee continued to whatever wall it would run into. And then again, we're just folding forward. It might not need to be a huge amount of time or space that you move. You can just take it to where the body says stop. And again, if you have a simple way to get your head in contact with something, it can be quieting. Otherwise, smoothing out the crease of the neck, closing the eyes. And similarly, you can pull that right heel toward the hip. It should give the pose a little bit of a boost, should give your torso a little bit more room to elongate. And every sensation you detect when you're in these poses, these various poses, kind of fill in some of the details. So if there was a texture to that sensation, what would that be? A color, a temperature, a sound. Like, just get creative about it. And when we can learn more about these tensions, we have a better chance of eventually releasing them or moving through them. About to transition. So when you come through the next exhalation, inhale, back upright. And then we're going to bring that left knee in, and the sole of the left foot is now completely down. And you're either elevated or not. You have to kind of decide what's better in your body. And so we kind of pull the knee to midline, even though it wants to kind of go wide. We're just going to train it in a little bit. And then we're coming forward over that right leg. Propping the head if that's accessible, otherwise taking care of the neck, the gaze, being quiet, minimizing effort. Good. So on an in-breath, you're going to rise up and step down. And because we've done so many forward bends, we're going to do one more of the very same wide knees, feet elevated. We're going to do that Sphinx pose because it's a back bend and it's going to relieve us from all those forward bends. So you're propping your arms on the second chair seat. You might need to raise the height of that surface. The knees are pressing out, even though they probably want to cave in. Press the knees out. And then remember, the palms are up and you're just kind of moving your elbows toward your body, which pulls the shoulders forward. Look forward. Remember, your face is in the sun. Let your lower back become concave. And if you've done, I know Jane said she did a ton of raking yesterday, that's usually gonna require that you counter with a lot more back bending if you do forward bending activities. So especially if you've done a lot of forward bending, you wanna make sure to get these back bends in. Standing back bends are great. Just put your hands on your lower back and arch back 10 times on the exhale. It's one of my favorites. And then when you feel kind of like you resolved some of those residuals from forward bending, feel free to come up. And we're going to prepare for that breathing practice. So you're gonna really kind of set yourself up comfortable. So you want support, you wanna make sure you're warm enough. You might keep the height under the feet. You might put something over your lap so that you can be heavy in the shoulders. So you might raise the height of the hands resting. You're gonna use the back of the chair so that you can keep your posture nice and upright without a lot of effort physically. Because classically, the pranayama practices are done seated or reclining. So we want to really minimize effort. So the practices I'm going to teach today are called Voloma, which means against the hair, which also can be translated as interruption. So we're going to interrupt our inhale and have a smooth exhale. That's our first practice. So the image I like to use is riding up a chairlift or a gondola. So you're riding up the mountainside. And we're going to have 3 segments of inhale with 2 interruptions. So it's that, if you've ever ridden a chairlift, usually it stops and starts for various reasons. Somebody can't get on down below, or somebody fell off, heaven forbid. So you're going to inhale, pause, inhale, pause, inhale, smooth turn around to the exhale, down the chairlift, exhale, 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 1 long breath, and then back into the broken, interrupted inhale. That being said, if you get agitated or your breath becomes kind of raggedy or you're getting frustrated, come into an easy breath cycle and you might not be able to do back-to-back attempts, okay? So we're only going to do 3 attempts of the broken inhale. And when you're finished, just sit with your normal breathing. And I'll guide the first one, but I don't like to guide everyone because we all breathe at a different rhythm. So it can be distracting if someone's talking and you're trying to you're off rhythm with them. So let's just put the hands palms up. Make sure your elbows are heavy, your shoulders are heavy, your skull is right above your spine, but also lift your chest and drop your chin toward your chest for that pranayama position. And just take a few normal breaths first. And we always begin pranayama exercises with a complete inhale, exhale. So when you're ready, start that first easy in breath, easy out breath. And then the next in breath, you'll make that first attempt on breathing in, pausing, breathing in, pausing, breathing in, and exhale down the chairlift. And again, you might need a break of an easy breath between these attempts. You might be able to come right into the next attempt. And when you're pausing, you're simply pausing. You're not hardening your belly. It's just cessation of in-breath. One more attempt here. When you come to the end of the third attempt, just sit with easy breathing. So when we emphasize inhalation, like we just did, we are enhancing certain qualities, such as energizing, mood lifting. We're upregulating the nervous system. So if we're feeling sluggish, depressed, down, good time to work with extending inhale. So it's helpful to know when to use these practices. And I like to finish on exhale extension because then we can leave class down regulated. So as you can imagine, we're going to do the very same thing, but now we're going to interrupt the exhalation. But we still come into the practice with a full inhale, exhale, but then it's going to be followed by another full smooth inhale. And then that broken 3-segment, 2 interruptions of exhale. So when you're ready, completely breathe in, completely breathe out, completely breathe in again, up the chairlift, and then down, pause, all the way down. Inhale. And keep going with your own guidance. And one more attempt. When you're done, just sitting with your easy breath cycles. Feel free to lift your chin back away from the sternum so your chin is just level with the floor. And then turn your palms over so their palms are down. It can be a little more quieting. And for the remainder of class, we're just going to sit for a few minutes, just quietly receiving the effects, the very specific effects of this practice. So if you have anything physically kind of complaining or nagging, try to create the most comfortable position you can. And then dropping into really being still in your body. So take care of the fidgets and the wiggles and the necessary movements, and then really looking to stillness. Instead of controlling breath now, we're allowing the breath flow, the unconditioned automatic breathing. And we're just riding those gentle waves of breathing with our own attention. Sometimes I like to use imagery a lot, and I like to imagine myself resting on the bottom of a small boat, like a canoe. And I'm looking up at the sky, and I can't see the waves, which are my breath. I can't see them coming or going. I can only really feel them as they're occurring right underneath me. Each wave is slightly unique. And then up above is that big blue sky, and there's clouds, and the clouds can be your thoughts. Each one has a particular shape. Some might grab your interest more than others. So the thoughts are passing, they're coming and going, but the big blue sky is how you can feel or think about your consciousness. It's always there, it's expansive. It's always behind the clutter of the thoughts. Continue, and I just chose a reading for today I wanted to share because it's lovely. And this is in Blackwater Woods by Mary Oliver. Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds. And every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this. The fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go. Let's just start to draw some deeper breaths in and let those same breaths flow out. If your eyes are closed, you might open them. You might start to squeeze your fists and wiggle your toes and rotate your wrists. You might gently roll your head from side to side. And then as you're ready, just shifting forward on the chair seat, bringing your feet down to the floor if they're elevated. Sitting up tall, joining your hands together in front of your chest. Just taking a few moments to notice the effects of this practice. To invite a feeling of gratitude, so important, gratitude. And then together, let's take a deep breath in through the nose and let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. Right. Thank you all for being here. Hope you have a beautiful fall day. And I will see you next week, hopefully.